I still remember the night like it happened yesterday. Isla had just posted another one of those social media quotes. Know your worth, Queens. Don't settle for less. I scrolled past it, my fingers hesitating for a moment before I tapped the little heart and added a comment. Kings, too. It was a small act, meant more for myself than for her. I didn't know then that 6 months later, the world would spin in a way I never imagined, and that same post would feel like a cruel prelude to a lesson I'd never forget. About 7 months ago, I had worked up the courage to propose to Isla Whitman. We'd been together for 4 years, cohabitating for the last 2, and I thought we were solid, inseparable. We had spoken about marriage, the kind of home we'd build, maybe kids someday, and every future I imagined seemed to include her. She'd always lit up when I brought it up. I thought we were on the same page. I planned a quiet but meaningful evening, nothing over the top. I wasn't some billionaire tech bro. I was just an accountant who cared enough to save for months to get the perfect ring. I took her to the Botanical Gardens, the same place where we had our first date. By the time the sun was dipping below the horizon, painting everything in shades of pink and gold, I led her to the fountain where we had spent countless hours laughing and talking. I knelt on one knee, my heart hammering in my chest, presenting the solitaire ring I had meticulously chosen. Liam, she started, her eyes wide, and my chest sank when she said the words that would change everything. No, not maybe, not, I need time, not even a pause. Just no. She said she wasn't ready, that we were moving too fast, that she needed to find herself and explore what else was out there. 3 days later, she moved in with her friend Tessa Monroe. Just like that, 4 years vanished into the ether, leaving me standing with a ring and a hollow heart. That night, Isla posted again on social media, Know your worth, Queens. Never settle for less than you deserve. Level up, boss babe. Know your value. The comments rolled in like a digital chorus echoing in my skull. Yes, Queen, you deserve the world. Never settle. My support for her, my quiet efforts, the times I had been there when her family needed me, the sacrifices I made, it all seemed erased in a single post. I liked the post, added Kings too, and that silence afterward was deafening. Within the hour, my comment disappeared. I didn't chase it. I didn't need to. In the months that followed, I went into autopilot mode. Work, gym, sleep, repeat. Social media vanished from my phone. Therapy became my sanctuary, and slowly, I began to reclaim myself. I realized how much I had dimmed my light to make her feel brighter, how I had measured my worth against her ever-shifting expectations. 2 months after Isla walked out of my life, something unexpected happened. My co-worker, Aria Callahan, had survived a brutal audit alongside me and asked if I wanted coffee. We were just friends. She knew about the breakup. Our casual coffee turned into dinners into nights filled with conversation and laughter. Aria was direct, confident, and appreciative. She wanted me, not some version of me that existed to prop up her ego. Our friendship blossomed into something deeper, more genuine, and I kept it quiet because this wasn't about rebounding. It was about breathing again after years of holding my breath for someone else. Fast forward to last week. Aria proposed to me. She didn't hesitate, didn't overthink. She simply knew, and I said yes. We posted a modest engagement photo, a snapshot of us hiking, arms around each other, smiles wide, adventure partners for life. My phone buzzed constantly, filled with congratulations from friends, family, co-workers. And then at 11:43 p.m., my phone rang. Isla. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. Liam, are you serious right now? Her voice trembled, heavy with disbelief. 6 months. 6 months, and you're engaged? I stayed calm, collected. Yes. Aria proposed. I said yes. We're happy. There was a long pause, broken by a shaky breath. We were together for 4 years. How could you move on the same way you did when you proposed to me? Didn't you care at all? I let the silence stretch. And then she spoke, words tumbling out in a rush, revealing the truth behind those 6 months I had spent trying to heal. She had been trying to see what else was out there, meeting investment bankers, lawyers, entrepreneurs, chasing a vision of herself that didn't include the reality of what we had built together. She hadn't been searching for herself. She had been auditioning for better options. I laughed softly, not in malice, but in a bittersweet realization. I was never an option for her. I was a backup plan. The conversation ended with her sobbing into the phone, confessing her failed experiments and the emptiness of those months. And I had found someone who didn't need to test me, who chose me fully, unapologetically. By the end of that night, I felt the first real sense of relief in months. For years of loyalty, patience, and care had taught me one brutal lesson. When someone treats you as a fallback, you deserve to move on and find someone who chooses you without hesitation. That's where it started. The slow, steady rebuilding of my life, piece by piece. I hadn't planned for it to be this way. But in hindsight, the rejection, the heartbreak, and the social media humiliation were necessary catalysts. They forced me to see who truly valued me and who never would. The days after Aria proposed were a surreal mix of normalcy and euphoria. On the surface, it was simple. Coffee in the mornings, planning our small engagement celebration, laughing at dumb YouTube videos late at night. But underneath, every interaction with the world felt different. I was lighter, freer. I no longer carried the weight of proving myself to someone who had already written me off as an option. I was chosen, wholly and without reservation, and that was intoxicating. But the universe, as it tends to do, didn't allow peace to settle for long. 3 nights after our engagement announcement, my phone buzzed incessantly with notifications. Old friends I hadn't spoken to in months suddenly had opinions, questions, and, worse, warnings. And then came the call from Isla, again, this time from a number I didn't recognize. "Liam, we need to talk," she said, voice shaking, a mix of anger and panic. This can't be happening. I sat back, letting the calm I had cultivated over months anchor me. "We already talked, Isla. I'm happy with Aria. There's nothing more to discuss." She laughed, a bitter, strangled sound. "You don't get it. 6 months. 6 months is nothing." Her words broke into sobs. "I didn't think you'd actually move on. I thought you'd wait. Wait for me." I couldn't help the small, ironic laugh that escaped. "Wait? Wait for what? You made your choice." She hesitated, then launched into the details I had suspected but didn't fully know. The dates she had gone on, the men she had met, her carefully curated social media persona, all of it designed to make her feel powerful, liberated, untethered. But the reality? It had been a string of disasters. The investment banker only wanted casual flings. The lawyer ghosted her. The entrepreneur was unemployed and living with his parents, his online presence far more impressive than his reality. I listened, absorbing the irony. The woman who had rejected me, who had told me I was enough, had spent months chasing the idea of better, only to realize what she had already discarded. I, meanwhile, had spent those months quietly healing, building something authentic with Aria. I thought, maybe if I tried enough, I could be sure what I wanted. Isla confessed, voice cracking. "I thought a year of dating around, experiencing more, it would make me ready to come back to you. I didn't think you'd actually move on." I shook my head, incredulous but calm. "Isla, I didn't move on because I was angry or spiteful. I moved on because I deserved someone who chose me first. Not as a fallback, not as a test, but as a partner who wanted me as much as I wanted them." The line went silent, except for a quiet, frustrated sobbing. I could almost see the wheels turning on the other end of the line, the realization that she had miscalculated everything. In the days that followed, the fallout extended beyond our conversations. Tessa Monroe, Isla's so-called best friend, began messaging Aria directly, warning her that I was a rebound, a manipulator, a man obsessed with Isla. The absurdity of it made Aria laugh. Together, we read the messages, shaking our heads at the audacity of someone trying to undermine a relationship built on genuine choice and mutual respect. Aria's sharp, calm responses quickly put an end to Tessa's interference. But the universe wasn't finished. Mutual friends started chiming in, some out of concern, some out of curiosity. Jason Hill, someone I hadn't spoken to in ages, sent a text. "Hey man, Heard about the engagement. Quick turnaround. Huh? Make sure you're not rushing. My cousin Owen texted, echoing the same concern, and even my college roommate Cole suggested we take it slow. I found it almost laughable. The people who'd been absent during my heartbreak, who hadn't offered a word of support while Isla left, now acted as if they were gatekeepers of my life. I let it roll off, keeping my focus on what mattered, Arya and the life we were building together. And then Isla called again, this time from yet another number. She pleaded for a mature discussion, accusing me of acting out of pride, of destroying what we had. I let her words wash over me without reaction. What we had. I asked slowly. You walked away. You left. You made it clear I wasn't enough. That isn't my failure. It's yours. Her voice broke into tears, frustration spilling into the line. You're rushing into this with Arya. You barely knew her, and you're proposing. You're just trying to hurt me. I took a deep breath. No, I'm marrying Arya because she chose me first. Because she saw me, not a version she wanted to mold or test. And she doesn't need a spreadsheet, a series of trials, or a backup plan to decide if I'm enough. She just knows. That's the difference. For the first time, I felt fully, irrevocably free. The storm of Isla's manipulation, the ghosting, the social media theatrics, they all pale compared to the clarity I now had. I was an option, a placeholder, or a safety net. I was chosen completely by someone who truly saw me. By the end of that week, the emails, texts, and calls from Isla and her friends had slowed, but the ripple effects of her actions lingered. Screenshots of her dating profiles, created months before our breakup, made their way into our circles, revealing the truth she had tried to hide. I finally saw in full how orchestrated her actions had been, how carefully she had engineered her rejection as a means of testing the waters elsewhere. Through it all, Arya remained my anchor. She was patient, trusting, and amused by the absurdity of it all. Together, we laughed at the attempts to undermine us, and each laugh was a stitch in the fabric of something far stronger than what I had shared with Isla. By now, I understood something I hadn't before, the value of being chosen, of being prioritized without question. For years with Isla had taught me my worth in the harshest way possible, and the 6 months of her post-rejection games had only reinforced the lesson. I had earned my peace, my love, and my happiness. And nothing, not even her frantic attempts to reclaim what she had discarded, could take that away. Arya and I were enjoying a quiet evening together, planning small details for our engagement celebration, when her phone buzzed. Lila Prescott, Arya's best friend, sent screenshots she'd received from Tessa Monroe, Isla's so-called best friend. Apparently, Tessa had taken upon herself to inform Arya that I was some obsessive rebound, painting me as a man still emotionally attached to Isla, manipulating her for revenge. We laughed. Hard. Arya's laugh was genuine, the kind that vibrates through your chest and makes you forget the world's stupidity. She didn't overreact. She simply composed herself and responded with pointed calm, asking Tessa why she was more invested in our lives than in her friends. The audacity was laughable, and within minutes, Tessa blocked Arya. One more small victory in a rapidly escalating farce. But the fallout didn't end there. Mutual friends began to check in on me. Ethan Rains texted, "Heard about the engagement, man. Quick turnaround. Are you sure you're not rushing this?" Jason Hill chimed in with subtle concern. Even Cole Donovan, my college roommate, suggested, maybe slow down relationships like this shouldn't be rushed. It was amazing how quickly people who hadn't been there for me during heartbreak suddenly felt responsible for my romantic pace. Then Isla called again, this time from a third number. Her tone was urgent, desperate, bordering on accusatory. "Liam, we need to handle this maturely," she demanded. I let her words wash over me without emotion. "We don't. I'm happy. That's all you need to know." She tried every angle she could. Manipulation, appeals to shared history, guilt. She even accused me of destroying what we had over pride. I stayed calm, patient. What we had, Isla, you ended it. You walked away. You rejected me. You don't get to guilt me now. Her voice cracked. You're marrying Arya out of spite. Everyone's going to think that. You didn't give us a chance to fix this. I shook my head slowly. No, I'm marrying Arya because she chose me, not as a fallback, not as a test. She knew who I was and decided she wanted me. You had 4 years to do that, and you didn't. You walked away. That's on you. Her silence was almost palpable, broken only by her muffled sobs. The conversation stretched late into the night, revealing truths I had only suspected. She had been actively dating months before the proposal, not casually browsing, real dates, real connections, evaluating options. She had spreadsheets ranking men based on income, stability, lifestyle potential, and, shockingly, husband material. And I had been ranked 4th in stability, but 11th in lifestyle potential. The absurdity was staggering. The guy she considered number 1 was a venture capitalist, someone with a glamorous Instagram life, who, as it turned out, had recently lost everything in a crypto collapse. Suddenly, I looked better. Not because I had changed, but because her so-called alternatives had crumbled. She rejected me not to find herself, but to play a game she had already rigged in her favor. Arya and I spent that evening reviewing the screenshots, laughing and shaking our heads at the sheer audacity. The realization was profound. Isla had attempted to control the narrative, weaponizing her social media, her friends, even mutual acquaintances, all while she schemed behind the scenes. She had literally prepared a backup plan for her life with me as the placeholder. The ripple effect continued. Once the evidence began circulating among mutual friends, the narrative she had spun for months collapsed spectacularly. Screenshots of her dating conversations, her spreadsheet, her own admissions that she had been evaluating other men while we were planning a future together. It was all there, laid bare. People were outraged. Not only had she manipulated me, but she had forced friends and acquaintances to take sides based on lies. Isla tried damage control, posting vague statements about betrayal, manipulation, and how she had been misunderstood. She attempted the classic victim angle, claiming her standards as a woman were being attacked. But with the evidence against her growing by the hour, the story quickly backfired. Her followers began dropping. Friends began questioning her intentions. And even the men she had dated started sharing screenshots that further exposed the deception. One revelation, in particular, was damning. She had been planning to judge whether to accept a proposal based on the ring, not on the relationship itself. She wanted to see if she could upgrade her life, and I had been a calculated option among many. The cherry on top came when she appeared at my apartment complex, demanding to see me. Security had already been briefed, photos on file, and the situation was immediately de-escalated. Footage of her confrontation went viral on TikTok, titled something like, "X calls a scene after backup plan gets engaged," racking up hundreds of thousands of views. Through all of this, Arya remained calm, patient, and utterly unshaken. She found the situation absurdly funny, laughing with me at the layers of manipulation and deceit. Together, we planned our wedding, discussed our future, and reveled in the simple joy of being with someone who had chosen us. Not an idea, not a backup plan, not a spreadsheet, but us. For the first time in years, I understood the true meaning of being valued, being chosen, being loved without condition or ulterior motive. I saw clearly what it meant to be in a relationship where my presence was wanted fully, where my partner celebrated me rather than testing my worth. I had moved from being a placeholder to being a priority, and that shift was life-changing. The chaos had quieted, but Isla's shadow lingered like an unpleasant perfume. Messages, calls, social media posts, they had all slowed, but I knew better than to assume the storm was over. I had learned to expect the unexpected, especially from someone who had made a habit of orchestrating drama. It started with one last attempt. A new number flashed across my phone. Isla. I debated ignoring it, but curiosity and closure won. "Liam, we need to resolve this," she said, voice soft, almost pleading. "I know you're happy with Arya, but I need you to hear me. I made a mistake." I cut her off gently but firmly. "Isla, I've heard everything. I know the truth. We've been through this. I'm happy, fully and genuinely, and nothing you do or say changes that. You chose to walk away. You manipulated situations to your benefit. I am no longer a part of your games." There was silence, a long, Heavy pause, and then the inevitable, her final attempt at guilt and manipulation. When you realize what you've lost, don't think I'll be waiting for you. I smiled not at her, but at the absurdity of it all. Good, because I won't be crawling anywhere. Goodbye, Isla. I hung up and immediately blocked her number. With that, a strange sense of peace settled over me. For the first time in months, I felt untethered from the drama, untangled from the web of deceit and manipulation that had so thoroughly consumed my life. The next few days brought confirmation that Isla's narrative had crumbled completely. Mutual friends, once swayed by her selective version of events, now came forward with apologies, messages of support, and relief that the truth was finally out. Screenshots, dating profiles, and spreadsheets were being shared discreetly, leaving no room for misinterpretation. Arya and I laughed over it. Sometimes we'd sit on the couch, reviewing the absurdity of her attempts to reclaim a life she had abandoned months before. She found joy not in vengeance, but in the clarity of choosing someone who truly wanted her presence, just as I had chosen someone who had chosen me. Life with Arya settled into a rhythm that was simple, beautiful, and grounding. We cooked together, leaving small notes in each other's lunches, surprising each other with flowers or coffee just because it was Tuesday. There were no tests, no spreadsheets, no manipulations, just two people building a life together, choosing each other every day. The wedding planning was unexpectedly fun. Without the pressure of proving anything to anyone, we focused on what truly mattered, a celebration of us. Friends and family came, not to witness a statement, but to share in joy. There were no social media performances, no public validation, just love in its most authentic form. Isla eventually faded from my life. She returned to her hometown, deleted most of her social media, and attempted vague statements about growth and understanding. Tessa Monroe, her loyal enabler, remained silent after Arya's responses and the social fallout. The lesson had been laid bare for everyone who had witnessed it. Manipulation, deceit, and attempts to control others always come with consequences. Reflecting back, I realize how profoundly those experiences shaped me. The heartbreak, the betrayal, the social humiliation. They had forced me to see my worth clearly, to understand the value of being chosen, of being loved without conditions. For years with Isla taught me patience and loyalty. 6 months after taught me resilience. And now, with Arya, I was learning joy, trust, and the peace of being fully seen. I often think about Isla's infamous social media posts, the ones that had sparked my own quiet comment. Kings, too. It's funny how much meaning that small act gained over time. What she meant to assert about herself became, in the end, a lesson about authenticity, choice, and the dangers of trying to control others to validate oneself. Arya and I continue to build our life, small moments stacking into a future neither of us needed to test. We are partners, equals, and best friends, and the sense of safety, of being fully valued, is intoxicating. The chaos of the past now serves as a reminder, not a weight. When someone treats you as an option, leave them behind. When someone chooses you without hesitation, hold on to them fiercely. In the end, life had delivered an almost cinematic justice. Isla, in her pursuit of better, had revealed her own manipulations. I, in my pursuit of peace and self-respect, had found genuine love. Social media, friends, and the public might have been witnesses to the spectacle, but what truly mattered was a quiet, profound satisfaction of being with someone who truly wanted me. And that is a lesson. Know your worth, but more importantly, choose someone who knows yours from day one. Because love without conditions, without tests or calculations, is the kind that lasts. That is what I found with Arya Callahan. That is what Isla Whitman never could give. So we live our lives simply, fully, and unapologetically. We cook, we laugh, we travel, we plan, and we love. No spreadsheets, no backup plans, no manipulations, just us. And for anyone reading this who has ever been treated as a fallback or a placeholder, move on. Choose the people who choose you. Stand firm in your worth. The rest will fall away, as Isla's world eventually did, leaving only the genuine, the real, and the love that was always meant to be. And with that, our story comes to an end, but the real story begins with your thoughts. What would you do if you were in this situation? Let me know in the comments.